So my wife was asked to go back to the office 3 days per week starting this year. So she's in the office these days, 3 days per week. And one thing that I did not anticipate, one issue with my wife going back to the office is when I let my dog out, he just stays out there because he wants to wait for her out in the yard. So I let him out. I always let him out before I go on shows. I know I'm going to be gone for an hour, 2 hours. I want to let him have a chance to go to the bathroom before I go out. But the issue now with the weather being nice and my wife being gone is he just wants to wait out in the yard for my wife. He doesn't come right back in. I'm sitting there like, do I need to go get this dog? It's a pain. So this is I think as the weather gets even nicer, this is going to be more of an issue. It's already up to it's in the 30s today, and he just would not come in. So unanticipated issues with my wife not being home all the time. What's up, Bindles? Good to see you. Good to see you around lately. I've seen a little bit of content from Bindles recently. That has been fun to see. We are here to talk about the NBA 4-game slate tonight on DraftKings, starting at 7 Eastern. Should be relatively easy to break down since we only have 4 games here. I started a little bit later than I usually start these shows. So we're going to get into the DraftKings DFS slate. But first, I want to take a look at the Unabated Pick'em tools. And I should remind you, Unabated has a deal going for the rest of the year. They've discounted the price if you want to sign up for the entire season. I think all of the monthly, all of the unabated packages are discounted for the rest of the NBA season, I believe. And you can use promo code Flannel. You use the link in the description of this YouTube video if you want to get a little bit extra off the already discounted price. I think they have awesome tools. Love their pick'em tools, especially love their DFS stuff because they do have projections. I've uploaded those into Rotogrinders so we can take a look at what the unabated projections are saying. They give you updates whenever they change projections in their Discord. They give notifications actually faster than Underdog with their notifications in general, but they also give you notifications if you leave them on whenever they update their projections. So a starting lineup comes out different than expected. They tell you we've updated our projections because of this change in the starting lineup or this player being out. And then if the starting lineup comes out as expected, they say this is a starting lineup. This is what we expected. So then, you don't need to wait around and expect any kind of change. So I find that very useful for DFS to just know what's going on with their projections at all times. Love the updates there. They give you breakdowns of the slate every day. I think every day in the Discord. I don't check every day, but they give you great long breakdowns, team by team. A lot of useful stuff at Unabated. So check it out if you haven't already done so, and you can find the link in the description of this video. All right, let's start by taking a look at the pick'em stuff. Oh, and they also have conditional projections. Like I said, there's another thing that I haven't really seen before, but they have conditional projections where you can say, I want to see what the projections say with this player in, this player out. And they tell you how many they have each day. I'm not going to use the conditional projections, but they have them for the sports book here. Okay, but I'm going to go to the pick'em page and make a pick'em card on Underdog. All right, so let's see. I've set it to, and you can upload your own projection. So if you want to try like the ETR projections or something, I've done that before. You can upload them into here, and you can give some weight to the ETR projections and then some weight to the unabated projections, whatever you want to do. Today, I'm just going to be using a combo of the unabated projections with market-based projections. So that's looking at some of the sharper books. Where do they have the lines for players' props and compare them to Underdog to see, where there might be edge relative to other books. So I'm using a combo of 80% using unabated projections, 20% market-based projections. And I'm going to check out the Underdog landscape today for NBA. Oh, we've got some nice edge today, looks like. So I better make this card quick before this goes away. Andrew Nembhard, lower than 17.5 points plus assists. This one has a 68% chance of hitting. That's pretty strong. So I'm going to try and get that one in right away. Nope, and it's not there. I was too slow. Okay, good to know. Oh, and you can see it went away. So no, never mind. It did not. I still have it in there. So that one's not there anymore. Benedict Mathurin, lower than 20.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Let's see if that one is still there. Huh. All right. Well, this is unfortunate. This has not happened in the past when I've done these streams. I wonder if I took too long. Like if this was, let me refresh this. If I needed to reset something here. All right. Going to try this again. Okay. And you can see those ones are removed. So I was probably just sitting on this page a little bit too long. Okay. So Jose Alvarado, lower than 5.5 assists. Edge is 18.7%, 64% chance of that one hitting. Not too bad. So I'm going to throw that one in there, lower than 5.5 assists for Jose Alvarado. And it's down to 4.5. They are moving their lines quickly today. That's a bummer. Okay. Do we still have lower than 14.5 points plus assists? I'm guessing not. Nope, down to 13.5. Unabated, too good. They're changing the numbers at Underdog as a result. Trenton Watford, lower than 9.5 points. There's only 59% chance of it. I'm getting to the point where I almost don't even want to make this card. Let's see if any of the other books have strong edges today, because I don't think it's worth playing when the edge is just this low. We've only got the Alvarado lines are gone, so we're down to just a few that have even a little bit of edge. So I think we just skip this one on Underdog today. PrizePicks, I have zero money on the site, so I'm not even going to open it up. But I'll just tell you, you can see here if this is available. If you're on PrizePicks, check this out. Sam Merrill, higher than 1.5 3-pointers made, has a 30.3% chance of hitting. That is really strong. Over 70% edge on that one. Higher than 2.5 assists for Evan Mobley, some strong edge, 65% chance of hitting for that one. Must have at least two teams. All right, we'll throw in Bub Carrington. That one is lower than 4.5 assists. He's going to hit 60% of the time. So now we're this three play card has a 38% total edge. Not bad there. Let's see if adding. I mean, now we're down to pretty low edges. You can throw in Trenton Watford, gets you up to 62%. That's lower than 9.5 points for Trenton Watford. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time here because it looks like there's just not a ton of edge today. There have been other days where we can find a lot of edge in these picks, but it's useful to know, like, is there a ton of edge in these picks today? Not a lot on pick 6 either. I guess the 4-game slate, maybe the sites are just a little bit more honed in on what the line should be, and they know people are going to play anyway. So they're just they've got these lines kind of where they should be. Not seeing anything too massive. Nemhard, lower than 1.5 3-pointers made, looks good at Splash Sports. Sleeper, anything there? Yeah, nothing good. All right, we're gonna skip past this. I have already downloaded the unabated projections and I've uploaded them into Rotogrinders. But if you want to see where you can download the unabated projections, which includes DFS projections, so total fantasy points for both DraftKings and FanDuel, you can download that. You just go to NBA props. And here where it says my custom projections, you just click here. Down here, you'll find the premium projections, unabated NBA projections. Click this little arrow. It downloads the CSV that you can then upload into whichever optimizer you're using. But I, like I said, have already done that. What's up, Kieran? Good to see you. It's been a minute, Kieran. Good to see you as well. And yeah, good to be back on YouTube. I have been a little bit absent recently. There was the All-Star break, so I wasn't doing content then. Then I did went to Cancun for a week, and I've just been not really lazy, kind of lazy, but I've been busy with other stuff, so I've not really gotten in the role of doing content again yet. So I did one NBA show last week on this channel. I did one on Rotogrinders, and I think that was it as far as the NBA stuff. I also did a long 3-hour interview with Fast Eddie Fear, which was really fun last Wednesday night. Yeah, and this week I've done a couple of shows as a guest. I did a show with Tambo from Ship It Nation. We recorded a show yesterday, which I don't know when that's coming out. Did the Swolecast today, was pretty fun with Pete and Davis. So I'm doing some guest stuff, but I have not really gotten into the groove of doing content on this channel again since the NFL season ended. So I think I'm going to, at some point this month, I'm going to start streaming some best balls, doing some other fun stuff on this channel. But then we've also got the UFL coming up. I'll be doing stuff there. with fantasy points. So keeping busy. But good to see you guys. Tyler, good afternoon to you as well. How was Cancun? Cancun was awesome. I did an all-inclusive with my wife, which was the first time we that either of us ever done an all-inclusive. And it was kind of what I expected. Like I've always thought, like, yeah, that seems like something that would be cool. Like you're not really seeing much. There's not a lot of exploring. You could. There's Chichen Itza is out there. We didn't go to Chichen Itza just because it was going to take an entire day, and it sounded like kind of a hassle. The tour set up there, and we would have had to get up super early. So we talked about doing that. We ended up skipping the Chichen Itza trip. We did go to a cenote, so a little like in a cave, a little pool of water in a cave. That was really cool. But yeah, we were mostly just doing the full on all inclusive experience, which is laying by the pool, laying on the beach. We got some cabanas, got some pina coladas on the beach. Going out to restaurants, getting free food. I mean, not free food and drink. It's included, so you've already paid for it. But yeah, I thought it was really fun experience. We really got to kind of reset our brains, turn off work for a week. My wife didn't check her work phone. I obviously can turn off my my work whenever I want to, since I work for myself. Pretty easy to do. But yeah, it was an awesome trip. I don't think I need to do an all inclusive every year, but getting out of the winter here in Minnesota, it's always a good idea. Like February, just get out, get somewhere sunny. Always feels amazing. So yeah, definitely was worth the trip. Kieran says, last we spoke, you were still a little under the weather. Glad to hear you're doing better. Yeah, I'm doing much better now. I have gotten sick so many times in the past year or two. It's been more than ever in my life. So I'm trying to get in shape. Like I'm at this point thinking maybe that's the issue. Maybe it's just because I'm in such poor physical shape. I'm more susceptible to getting sick. I think there's probably some correlation there. So I'm trying to get the blood pressure down, trying to get into some better shape here. Did a little run before the stream today, little jog just on the treadmill. It's a little bit cold out today. Yeah, it's solid bang for your buck for relaxing. Agree with that. Was fun. Yeah, cenote would recommend. It was very cool. And yes, I would be. You tell me, Bindles. You set it up. I'm down for a best ball Cancun trip. That would be a lot of fun. All right, so we didn't find anything in the pick'ems. Maybe I'll check one more time just before we get into the DFS. Just gonna make sure nothing has popped up, that they haven't added anything on Underdog or something like that. Because usually I've been able to find some decent lines on Underdog to play. Nemhard, I think this one maybe it's back up. Let me make sure that this is not back up at. Oh, there is. Okay, Nemhard is back up. Look at that. 17.5, lower than 17.5 points plus assists for Nemhard is back up. Wait, no, this is 17 points plus rebounds plus assists. Never mind. So maybe it was a faulty line. Yeah, so this is never mind. I take it back. It is not back up. Got excited prematurely. All right, let's take a look at the DFS stuff. As I said, I've uploaded the unabated projections, still using the shot quality. That's a partner of Rotogrinders, using their projected ownership, so we can kind of look at the slate from that perspective. Actually, I should bring up the NBA injury report just to refresh on what we're looking at. I know Donovan Mitchell. I looked at it earlier. Donovan Mitchell is questionable. But let's go over it one more time, see what the updates are. D'Lo is out. Tyson ETN, any relation? I wonder if there's a relation there. DeAndre Hunter's questionable and Donovan Mitchell. I think those are the two biggest on the slate that we're still kind of waiting on. The Wizards, we just have several. We have Bilal Coulibaly is out. Yeah, Lillard probable. I guess Pat Connaughton is questionable. That could be sort of impactful. But yeah, doesn't. Halliburton is questionable. That's right. I mean, that is a pretty big one. Tyrese Halliburton being questionable, and TJ McConnell being questionable could have a pretty big impact on the slate. So I guess I think that's a later game. So I think that's the kind of late swap angle to play, potentially those two being out. Maybe we see Benedict Mathurin looking good if they're both out. But I think his price has probably moved up. So we'll see. On the Pels, Yeah, we kind of know who's out. Nurkic is questionable. Did not remember that. Okay. Wait, is that even today's slate? I don't think that's today's slate. All right. Well, let's get into it. Yeah, we don't even have Nurkic on the slate today. So that's why I don't remember those. Okay. Let's start at point guard, and I better move my sidebar down. Oh, we got the news. Both are in, Dante says. All right. That is good to know. I have not been checking my updates since I started the show. That is okay. Let's see here. Yep. We got the news. Yeah, 13 minutes ago. Halliburton, McConnell, both in. So yeah, we're not really waiting on much, are we? We're waiting on Donovan Mitchell. That is Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, obviously impactful, but nothing else that is all that meaningful. And that's good because I believe I have Halliburton and McConnell both in my projections. Let me make sure. McConnell, yep, in for 15 minutes. So that probably implies that Halliburton is also in. Yep, they're both in the projections. Good to see. All right. So starting at point guard, and I'll go through position by position. Should be quick because it's only 4 games. And then once I'm done going position by position, I will play around with lineups, kind of show you how I'm setting up the optimizer today. And we'll start by point per dollar is kind of the way I like to usually start looking at who are the best point per dollar plays on the slate. Looks like it's James Harden at point guard, and not a great, just 5.39. So just a little bit over 5x value, but he's 9,900, projected to play 37 minutes, 53 fantasy points, 34% ownership. You're going to get a lot of ownership on a lot of these guys with it being such a short slate, but looks like a pretty strong play. Actually, that's another thing I should pull up here is how are the defenses looking over the past 10 days? I think the Pelicans, like in my mind, a pretty easy matchup in general, or pretty nice matchup, I should say, for opposing teams. Man, only 18th in pace. So I think they've slowed down a little bit. Looks like their defensive rating is going to be a good one to attack, but yeah, 22nd in defensive rating, so not great defensively. Some strong signals there for playing against the Pels. And where are we in terms of I can show you the defense versus archetype is always a kind of a fun thing to look at. Rotogrinders tool. Yeah, eighth best matchup for a combo guard like James Harden. Good to see. So that's out of all 30 NBA teams, not just the teams on this slate, obviously. So yeah, looks like a strong matchup for James Harden. You can see some of the cool tools that you see, cool like info that you see in LineupHQ. That's where this is Rotogrinders LineupHQ is what we're using here. So this is what I uploaded the unabated projections in here, but all this other data is coming from Rotogrinders. You can see this is the back-to-back situation. So they're playing 2 games in 3 nights, back-to-back for the Nets. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool to look at, but nice matchup for James Harden. Looks good. Dennis Schroeder. We think of Washington as being a great matchup. Not as great recently, but still, I think a pretty strong matchup. Still one that I try to attack. I mean, they have 125 point total here. So I don't know. Looking at, and I'll bring it back to this, like it doesn't stand out the way they were standing out the matchup with Washington early in the years. Like they were playing at the fastest pace and the worst defense. It's not quite as strong. They're 11th in defensive rating over the past 10 games. Their pace is, let's see, 100.55. Where do they rank there? Pace, so 11th in pace and 11th in, am I right, defensive rating? Yeah, and 11th in defensive rating. So they're, playing somewhat fast, but they're also playing pretty good defense over the past 10 games. I think the total would kind of indicate that probably seen as mostly just small sample size, like the larger sample size, probably a better indicator of what they look like as far as being a matchup, strong matchup here. So nice matchup for Dennis Schroeder. Only projected to play 21 minutes, but projected for more than a fantasy point per minute and about 15% ownership. So it looks like, strong play on a short slate. Cam Thomas projected for 27 minutes, 32 fantasy points at 6,200, a little bit better than 5x there. Chris Dunn looks like a strong play. Nobody really standing out as like an amazing play. A lot of like around 5x value, fine plays, and they're all getting some ownership because it's a 4-game slate. So nobody's super contrarian. Cade Cunningham obviously looks like somebody that we can attack here as long as the game stays close. He'll probably play pretty big minutes, and he's got a great matchup with Washington. Actually, let's take a look at that defense versus archetype again. 4th best matchup for combo guard like Cade Cunningham against Washington. Looks like a strong play. We do. Oh, I guess Mitchell would be a shooting guard. He's not point guard eligible, right? Yeah. So we could get some value opening up from Cleveland at some point. Guessing Garland will look a little bit better if Mitchell is out, or kind of significantly better. He would become a pretty strong play, but we should have that news before lock. We should have it pretty soon, I would think. We'll know if Donovan Mitchell is playing. I know I read that he was. Oh, we got it. Okay, Donovan Mitchell ruled out. DeAndre Hunter ruled out. Okay, we got the news. Apologies, I have not been reading chat. Yeah, Paul and Boats, appreciate you. Okay, so I'm going to have to re-upload once we get the projections updated from Unabated, and I don't think it should take long because actually I wonder if I can. I don't know that I can download the projections with the conditionals. Like, I don't think that you can actually. I should talk to somebody there. Maybe I can, and I just don't know how to do it. But I don't know how to download their DFS projections with the conditionals. I know how to do it for the sports book, but that's something I need to talk with them about because I don't know how to do it. So probably need to wait a minute and update those projections. For DK, who would you pair with Giannis stud-wise? Let's take a look. So you just want to know like the best stud plays. And again, like I like to start with looking at point per dollar. Now with Donovan Mitchell out, I mean, are you going to include Darius Garland in there? Because I think Darius Garland at 7,100 is going to look like a pretty strong play for the Cavs. You can kind of see here. So I'm sorted by point per dollar. James Harden looked like a strong value. Zubats looks like a strong value against the Pels. So let me see. Who would be if I were making one lineup? Oh, probably Kawhi. I mean, if 8,100 like that's just too cheap for Kawhi. Yeah, it would probably be because Giannis is already so expensive. So paying for like a kind of less expensive stud, I feel like Kawhi kind of stands out as a strong play here against the Pels. See where that is in terms of the defense. Yeah, it's 4th overall for a versatile forward in the defense versus archetype tool against the Pels. We just got Damian Lillard available to play. Giannis available to play as well. I think they're both probable. So kind of knew that. But yeah, I think it would probably just be Kawhi. But you could play Kawhi and Darius Garland with Giannis. I'm curious to see how the Darius Garland projection changes here. What do you think about Brook Lopez over 6.5 rebounds and assists? Let me take a look at the. So I'm not going to pull it up on the screen, but I can read off what the projections are there for Brook Lopez from Unabated. So they have Brook Lopez at about just a hair under 7 is their projection. They've got him for about 5.5 rebounds and 1.5 assists. So it's the over looks better than the under. I don't know that it's like strong enough. Like it didn't show up as one of the bets. I was like, actually, I wonder if I can. If I go back to the Unabated tool, let's see if I know how to use it. So we'll go to props. Now let's go. You say rebounds plus assists. Where's Brolo? How is this sorted? I can't. I think it's sorted by team, right? So where's Brolo? Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. Is this going to tell me what the edge is? I feel like it should. Oh, simulate to determine best line. Well, here are the available lines for Brook Lopez. All All right, what do I have to do? So I can't sports bet here in Minnesota, so I've never actually used this tool. So I'm trying to see if I can, if I know what I'm doing. I feel like I've run a sim here before though. I gotta move something out of the way here. Wait, I think I just saw it. Simulate. Let's run it. See what that does. I think it's currently running a sim. Anyway, I don't think it's going to have huge edge, but he is projected for more than 6.5. That doesn't necessarily mean that the over is better, even. I mean, just because there are going to be games where he's going to have 17 rebounds plus assists. So like in some sims, he probably has 17 rebounds plus assists, but you can never go lower than 0. So like with those kind of lower numbers, even if he projects for more, it doesn't necessarily mean that the over is a good bet. But I don't know what I'm doing here. So I'm apologies, but it looks like it projects for, looks like a fine line just based on what we're seeing here, Brian. If you want to do it for fun, I think it seems like a fine line to bet the over. It looks like it's about a good line. Like it's about where it should be, is what I would guess. We'll see if I come back here later. If this says run a sim, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Wait. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to, maybe it's already run the sim. I'm not sure. All right. Let me double check, see if they have updated their projections, because I think this will be kind of probably the final projections update from Unabated. So I'm going to check their Discord, see if they have already updated. Doesn't look like it. Possible that they just don't send the notification because they already had the conditionals, so maybe they didn't need to. I don't know. I'm gonna double check if they have projections updated for Mitchell out. So I'm just going to go back and download again. Actually, let me close my previous window. Now I'm going to go back to NBA. We're already at props. All right, let's download. And I'm just going to check on my end if they have updated. I am not seeing it. Doesn't appear they've updated. So for now, I guess I'm just going to go take a look at the Rotogrinders projections. I'm not seeing Cleveland in my projections. So I am just going to go take a look at the RG projections, or actually the shot quality, since I'm using their ownership projections. Okay, they've got Mitchell out, so they probably have Hunter out. So now I'm going to start over, point guards just real quick, see if Garland has moved up much. Yeah, so now Garland is projected pretty well. 7.1K is the salary for Garland, projected for nearly 39 fantasy points. Obviously, the projected ownership is not showing up here, so let me see. Maybe I need to click reset. All right, I'm going to refresh the page. It's possible it's gone because they are rerunning now for the new news and they have to like wait for all the other sites to update. Click reset one more time. All right, we're good. Now I'm using the shot quality. We're going to look at point guard, sorted by point per dollar. We've got Jose Alvarado, the now top point per dollar point guard, using the shot quality projections. Projected for 25 minutes and 26 fantasy points at 4,600. Pretty strong value on a 4-game slate. About 20% ownership. Darius Garland projected for 31 minutes and 39 fantasy points at 7,100. I would guess this ownership number comes up now that we have the news. Probably some of the sites aren't really reflecting it yet, but I'm guessing that the ownership comes up on Darius Garland. Cam Thomas, they have for 33.5 fantasy points at 6,200. So it looks like a pretty strong value there. Craig Porter, 18 minutes. He projects for a little bit better than 5x. But again, we're not seeing any kind of amazing value here. James Harden, they have this. It looks like his projection a little bit worse in shot quality than it was for Unabated, but projected for 37 minutes, a little over 51 fantasy points, 33% ownership at 9,900 looks pretty good. I think Cade is pretty interesting, but getting ownership, most of these, like the stronger plays, are, as we would expect, getting some ownership, except for Craig Porter. That's kind of interesting. Craig Porter, that's why it has not been reflected. So his projection came up with the news that Hunter and Mitchell are out, but the ownership projection not reflecting that change yet. So that's why we're seeing a strong value and not a ton of ownership. Oh yeah, you can see they're clearly updating the ownership projections. Who else? I mean, Hallie is interesting. That game, let's see. We got a 1-point spread for Milwaukee and Indiana, which I think it's, with it being such a short slate, I don't hate the idea of game stacking a little bit. And I think this game in particular could be super competitive. I mean, these are teams, they played each other in the playoffs last year. They're fighting for playoff positioning this year, and there's a 1-point spread with kind of a high total. That's a game that we could see the starters play pretty big minutes with teams that don't often, like the Tyrese Haliburton projected for 33 minutes here. Maybe we see a little bit more from the stars in that game. So I don't hate the idea of stacking the Milwaukee Indiana game. I think that one could be a fun one. Haliburton just projects for 15.5% ownership. Looks like a strong play to me. He's been crushing it lately. 59 last time out, 49 against the Bulls, 47, 67, 52, 57. Just, man, he has been rolling, and he's been out, I think, 2 or 3 games now. So could come back. Maybe there's a little bit of a minutes limit, but if there's not, should be in for a good game. What's the defense versus archetype there? Sixth best possible matchup for a combo guard against the Bucks. Now we got, now Nembhard probably a little bit too expensive for his role with Haliburton and McConnell back. KPJ sort of interesting. Yeah, if we do see the starters play extended minutes, then he's probably going to lose out. But who knows? Maybe they consider him a core part of their rotation. He just went off a couple of games ago in limited minutes, 40 fantasy points. He played 26 minutes in that game against Dallas. Obviously, that's an outlier, but he can score in bunches, put up a lot of fantasy points. So on a 4-game slate, a little bit intrigued by KPJ at 1% owned, just because the upside is there. All right, I'm going to move on to shooting guards. We did just get the unabated projections update also, but I'm going to check in on chat, and then I'm going to move down. I didn't move down the sidebar, so let me do that. Woe says Duran smash spot. All right. Yeah, I mean, always a nice spot against the Wiz. All right, let me re-download the unabated projection. So I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go to download. Good. All right, so we've got those in there now. All right, everything looks good. Give me a second. I'll re-upload their projections. Gotta reformat, just change some of the column names in my spreadsheet before I can upload. So give me a sec. All right. we'll go back to RG. Okay. And now I just have to do the name matching thing. So Tim Hardaway, Schroeder, Lindy Waters, Ron Holland. I don't want to skip that. I'm not sure why it sometimes suggests skipping a row. Like, am I missing something? Why did it want Alex Sarr to skip that row? Is it just that the name is too far off? Is he out or something that I'm forgetting? I don't think he is. All right. Andre Jackson. When the player's got 0 projection, I can skip that one. Okay. Almost there. There we go. Trey Murphy. All right. We've got the update. So I'm going to change and take a look at what the unabated projections now say with Donovan Mitchell out, just see if there's anything too different. So they really like Greg Porter Jr. They've got him in for 19 minutes and 19 fantasy points. That's kind of interesting. Because at 3K, if he plays 19 minutes and gets 19 fantasy points, it's going to look like a really strong value on a slate where there isn't a ton of great value. They have Darius Garland looking a little better too. They have him at 42 fantasy points, still just 31 minutes, but 42 fantasy points. There is a wide spread in that game, but maybe it gets. You'd think that the spread would get a little bit tighter with Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter out, but I think this is maybe updated. I don't know. Dennis Schroeder. Again, they have James Harden projected a little bit better. All right, nothing else really need to. We've already gone through point guards, so I'm not going to do it all over again. But yeah, they have KPJ for just 12 minutes. Still, on a 4-game slate where he's getting 0 ownership, I think KPJ a little bit interesting. Okay. Move on to shooting guard. All right. Top of the shooting guard board in terms of projected points per dollar. Max Strus project for 25 fantasy points at 4,100, 27 minutes. Looks good. Could get a little bit more usage with no Mitchell out there. Sam Merrill, likewise. So we're seeing a lot of the best value is all on Cleveland. That makes sense. They're missing Donovan Mitchell and DeAndre Hunter, kind of important too. Sam Merrill looks good, 3,300, 25 minutes, 20 fantasy points. So just expecting him to see increased minutes there. 12% ownership, not too bad. Isaac Okoro, Isak Okoro, I think it's pronounced Isak. 3,500 projected for 20 fantasy points in 27 minutes. Not the best fantasy producer there, but if he gets extended minutes, he has spikes occasionally. Dennis Schroeder, 4,400, where he's a point guard. So we talked about him. Chris Dunn, also point guard. Taurean Prince projected for 30 minutes and 20 fantasy points. If his shot is falling, he could have a bigger game. So 9% ownership. Don't hate that for Taurean Prince. He's been starting, I believe, and playing pretty big minutes recently. 40 minutes against Orlando 2 games ago. Yeah, if the starters play big minutes, he could be in for big minutes himself. 10 field goal attempts against Orlando. So Prince looks okay at like no ownership. Zaire Williams, 27 fantasy points. Now we're already below 5x in terms of the points per dollar. Trey Murphy always looks pretty good. 35 minutes, 37 fantasy points. Not like a great point per dollar projection, but just 11.5% ownership. We do have Zion in this game, so that obviously takes away some usage from everybody else. Keon Johnson looks okay. Oh, I apparently don't have it. Says I have it sorted right, but then we have Keon Johnson's point per dollar. Maybe it changed since I don't know what's going on here. But it was a little bit out of order for some reason. Malik Beasley could have if he just like has a good shooting game, he can always get hot, put up a big score. Getting 19% ownership, so that's probably fair. Bogey 21. So now we're looking at players that are like projected pretty well below 5x, but on a 4-game slate, like these are players that I wouldn't really consider on an 8-game slate. Like Bogdanovic only projected for 25 minutes and 21 fantasy points. Normally a $5,000 player with those numbers I wouldn't really even consider, but on a 4-game slate where he's getting 7% ownership and all you know he just needs to get a little bit hot shooting, suddenly he'll look pretty good. Then yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll play some of that maybe. Anything else? Nah, I think we're good at shooting guard. Going to move on to small forward. It's going to be some of the same players. All right. Small forward, again, it's Max Strus, Cam Thomas. So he's point guard, small forward eligible. 27 minutes, 33 minutes looks pretty good. Kawhi, like I said earlier, Kawhi, I think, is a really strong player. He is getting a fair amount of ownership, but 35 minutes for Kawhi is the projection. Great matchup with the Pels, 43 fantasy points. Everything looks good there. Oscar Thompson projecting for 24 minutes and 27 fantasy points, 9% projected ownership. Great matchup there. So he played back-to-back games with 30 minutes, and then the past two, 17 and 20. I was listening to another show, the ETR Injury Show earlier, and they were mentioning that he got into foul trouble, I think, in both of these two most recent games. Let me see if I can find a double check that. Yeah, 5 fouls in each of those games. Coaches love to take players out prematurely when they get into any kind of foul trouble. So that was a good note from, I think it was Gallagher at ETR, that these minutes maybe he can. I think somebody else had come back. I'm forgetting who it was. Somebody came back, so it's kind of unclear what his minute ceiling is, but it looks like that's pretty well accounted for by Unabated, where they have met 24 minutes. Maybe there's upside for more there. All right, what else? Trey Murphy, we talked about. Malik Beasley. Kyle Kuzma, small forward and power forward eligible, project for 33 minutes, 29 fantasy points at 6,200, 13% ownership. Been playing pretty big minutes here. Again, if the starters play a little bit more, Kuzma could benefit there. If that game stays close. Tim Hardaway Jr., I fall for it all the time. I just always think, if he has a good night shooting, he could surprise, and it never really works out for me. But I don't know, kind of intriguing. 27 minutes is the projection. 19 fantasy points. He is projected for 11% ownership, so it's not like he's super contrarian for a 4-gamer, but sort of a little bit contrarian. Gary Trent, Chris Middleton, sort of interesting. 24 minutes, 26 fantasy points, 9% ownership for Middleton. He's never really getting above that number in terms of minutes. So you kind of need him to be efficient. All right. Nobody else looks that great to me. All right, let's move on to power forwards. Sidebar down. Karlo Matkovic probably going to get the start here with no Kelly O tonight. Projected for 26 minutes, 23.5 fantasy points. Also projected for 49% ownership. That is too much, in my opinion. That 49%. If he doesn't get the start, which would be kind of a surprise, but if he didn't, then he would be just stay way away from it. Of course, that's the last game of the slate, so we might not know until it's too late, but that would be a spot that we would really want to stay away from in that scenario. We got the Cavs starting lineup: Garland, Strus, Okoro, Mobley, Allen. I would assume that is what they add in there. So I assume that the projections we have made that assumption. That seems like what it would have been my assumption. And I just got the update from Justin Fan. Everyone, Isaac Okoro starts for Donovan Mitchell as expected. So yeah. Let's see. So Matkovic, to me, this is I will be underweight to that number. Now, obviously, he could absolutely smash because he's only 3,700. Should play big minutes as the starter, but it's a lot of ownership. He's power forward and center eligible. But yeah, this is a number that I would be at least a little bit underweight to, and he's probably the best point per dollar, one of the top point per dollar plays on the slate. And with all the others being on Cleveland, easy to get there if you put a limit on the number of Cleveland players you have. But I don't know, 49% seems a little bit excessive for a player who, again, we'll take a look at his game log. I mean, I guess like all of these scores would be good enough. You obviously would not be happy with 17 minutes and 16 fantasy points, 19 and 17, 18 fantasy points. Could have a game like this one. Now, he had back-to-back games against against Phoenix, put up 34 and 35 minutes and then 9 and 21 minutes. He had a game against the Spurs, 10 and a half and 17 minutes. So you can see that there are plenty of games where his production is well under a fantasy point per minute. And then if he's only projecting for about 26 minutes, like he could have 18 fantasy points and be a letdown. And it seems to happen fairly regularly. So to me, this seems a bit much. 49% projected ownership. I would want to be under that number for Matkovic. Tobias Harris, 32 minutes, 31 fantasy points, looks good against Washington. Another great matchup there, I assume. Yeah, first overall in terms of defense versus archetype for Tobias Harris. Looks great. Kind of a middling matchup for Matkovic. Giannis looks great. That's a sixth best possible matchup for a versatile forward. Now that's throwing Giannis in a wide bucket of players who are labeled as versatile forwards. There's only one Giannis. There's really nobody else like him. So maybe it doesn't matter as much for him, but good to see that it's a nice matchup. Regardless, though, 62.5 fantasy point projection in 35 minutes, 32% ownership. Trenton Watford projected for a little bit better than 5x, 20 minutes and 23-ish fantasy points. Cam Johnson looks okay. Evan Mobley, I don't know, could get a little bit more usage with no Donovan Mitchell, but only projects like not even 5x values. 8,300 projecting for 40.5 fantasy points. Siakam, maybe we see him play 35 minutes and suddenly he would look pretty good against Milwaukee. Not a great point per dollar projection, but lower than 13% projected ownership. I think he's pretty intriguing. Not a great matchup. 27th in terms of defense versus archetype for versatile forwards against Milwaukee. But at low ownership, I would take some shots there. Corey Kispert, Justin Champagny look okay. Detroit kind of a tough matchup in general. Yeah, Dean Wade. We kind of depend on the ownership there for me for Dean Wade. Projected for 22 minutes and just 13.5 fantasy points. But if he were coming in at 5% ownership, I think I'd want to be over that number. If he comes in at 12%, I think that seems high. So I don't know. I would want to know. Got to get the update on Dean Wade there. Jeremiah Robinson Earl probably playable with no Kelly Olynyk, just because if he does see a spike in minutes, he could look pretty good here. Only projected for 14 minutes and 11 fantasy points, though. Yeah, and then a lot of players we don't really need to consider. All right, I'm going to move on to center. And then I'm going to start building some lineups. All right. So again, Matkovic, the top point per dollar play. Jarrett Allen, just 6,100. A little bit more likely to play a full game against Brooklyn. It's a revenge spot, right? Didn't he started in Brooklyn, if I'm remembering correctly. Pretty sure of that. 29-minute projection, 36 fantasy points for Jarrett Allen. 18th in terms of defense versus archetype. Beef Stew looks pretty good here. Nice matchup again versus Brooklyn. or sorry, versus Washington. Only projected for 19 minutes, but also 19 fantasy points at 3,200. Would like him better if he wasn't only center eligible, but looks playable. Zubats looks like a pretty strong play against New Orleans. I thought about him as a possible who would you pair with Giannis? Zubats would be another player that I would consider there. Just kind of like the matchup with the Pels. Also, it's the last game on the slate, so it gives you a little bit more late swap optionality. Jalen Duren does look like a really strong play. So that was correct. 27 minutes, 37 fantasy points for Jalen Duren. So if he does spike minutes upside, like he's a great point per minute producer. If he spikes a little bit of a minutes upside, and he could. I mean, 28 and 29 the past 2 games. What is the back-to-back situation there? 3 and 4 nights. Okay, for Jalen Duren and the Pistons. Still, he could, if the game stays close, could spike a minutes upside, and he would look awesome. If you just give him like one more minute, he's just gonna fly off the page. But looks good as is. 38% projected ownership though. Nick Claxton, 27 minutes, 30 fantasy points at 5,400. Looks pretty good. A lot of strong center plays. You can see this is where we're getting a lot of the best point per dollar plays. Giannis looks good. Watford looks good. Alexander Starr looks good. 27 minutes, 29 fantasy points at 5,900. Yves Missy, again, no Kelly Olynyk. Probably benefits him a little bit. I think he's been starting anyway, but 28 minutes, 24.5 fantasy point projection. Just 2% ownership for Yves Missy. I mean, if that's real, that stands out to me. Earlier in the year, I think he was a stronger fantasy producer. He's been pretty subpar, as you can see here, pretty mediocre in terms of fantasy output. But on a 4-game slate, if he comes in at 2% ownership, I would want to have 15, 20. I don't know. Like I that seems to me like you got to take some risks. You got to find ways to get a little bit different on players that have upside. On a short slate like this, kind of intriguing. Now, as I'm going through the game log, there's not a lot of green here, so I'll say that this is grosser than I think of it for Yves Missy. 29 on DraftKings on the 8th in 27 minutes. So that's not too bad. I'd take that at 5,000. You'd like this game, 32, 33 fantasy points against Phoenix. I would take that. But again, no Kelly O. I think better opportunity there for Missy. Some usable games here in recent game logs, but no like need to have it scores. So maybe you don't want to be go too crazy with it, but I do think I'd want to have double digit. Like if the field is at 2% ownership on Missy, I would want to take a little bit of a stand there because you can see this is also in the game log. 39 against Clippers, 33 against the Wiz, 34 against the Wiz. Like we would take those all day. 44 against Denver. Looks good. Miles Turner, I'm always a fan of Miles Turner. Just a strong fantasy producer with a lot of volatility. So I think he just is generally a good GPP play on a lot of NBA DFS slates. Not a great matchup with Milwaukee. I think Brook Lopez, my understanding, I've heard, and I believe this to be the case, Brook Lopez great at boxing out his guy and letting other people get rebounds. So obviously it's a tougher spot for rebounding for Miles Turner. Karlo himself looks like a strong enough play here. Nick Batum projected for 27 minutes, 17.5 fantasy points, 11% ownership. I'm intrigued by Nick Batum again. Nice matchup with the Pels. The recent game log looks pretty good. 34 minutes against the Knicks, 27 against the Kings. Could play big minutes here again tonight against the Pels. And this is obviously not great fantasy point per minute production, 27 minutes, 17.5, but get a little bit hot and you never know. I take it at 11% ownership. Nobody else looking too great here. Talking about JRE. Jericho Sims looks okay, but like borderline playable. All right. Should we get into making some lineups? To check in, see if we have any comments, questions, anything I need to respond to. Feel free if you have questions, comments, whatever. Let me know and I'll check them. Let me check my info here. We got Wizards projections updated for starters. Were they different than expected? I don't think I saw. It's possible I need to update again, but let me double check the Wizards. Wizards starting Poole, Champagny, Middleton, George, Summer. Is that different than what we were expecting? I'm trying to think of what the expectation would be with Bilal Coulibaly out. I guess they've updated the projection, so I'm just not going to take any chances. I am going to update with the unabated projections, and then I'm going to get into some lineup building. All right, so going back here again to, going to refresh the page. All right. Good. Back to Rotogrinders. Going to update again. All right. Make sure they're all in here. Can skip Okafor. All right, we're good. This is the latest update. And I'm just going to, all positions, just double check. Has anything significantly changed in terms of the point per dollar projections at the top? No, it's still a lot of Cleveland. We got Matkovic in there as the second best overall point per dollar projection. Beef stew. Champagny now in for. So I think he got a little bit of a boost here, now in for 27 minutes, 24 and a half fantasy points. So maybe that's a little bit of an update. Maybe we didn't know that he was going to be starting here. But looks 3% projected ownership. That's I would guess that's going to come up with the news that he's starting. But yeah, it looks like that is the one that needed to be updated there. All right, so I'm going to try running some lineups here. I'm going to start by build rules. I'm just going to turn on how much 10% randomness. Not going to set anything with the salaries. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that as is. Players per team on a 4-game slate. I'm going to start with 4. I might sometimes most of the time I do 3, but on a 4-game slate, I usually open it up a little bit. So I think 4 is a good. Just every team have a max of 4. As of now, not setting any kind of rules to exclude like Mobley and Allen or whatever other exclusions you might do on a 4-game slate. I'd be less inclined to make a ton of rules. Maybe there are some combos that I should be setting rules for. I probably don't set rules as much as I should. Maybe you don't want to play Lillard and Giannis together, but if the game goes to double OT, I know I'd be okay having them. So, yeah, that's generally I don't set as many rules as most, I think, which probably is a mistake. I probably should set some more, even though I think a lot of people set too many rules. All right, so we're running it, making 150 lineups. We'll see what the exposures look like, what the lineups look like. All right, so we got to 71% Matkovic, 70% Darius Garland, 65% Strus, 60% Sam Merrill, 60% Ivica Zubats, 59% Giannis, 53% Craig Porter, 39% Harden, 38% Allen, 38% Duran, 35% Kawhi. All right, I'm going to go through. So now, my process here is very simple, and it's not. There's no like great math going on. It's not a really strong procedure. It's just this is what I've done that works for me. I like to go position by position and just look at what did I get? What did I get in that run? What do I need to change to get more or less to get to the exposures that I want to get to? And I like to sort just by salary because then you can see, all right, where do I need the projection to be relative to other players to get to more of that player? And you can see how much I actually got to each player. So I'm getting to 18% Cade Cunningham, 39% James Harden, 7% Damian Lillard, less than 1% Tyrese Halliburton, 0% Jordan Poole, so on and so forth. I'm going to start with Cade at 18%, and we don't have. Let me see if I switch the ownership projections to RG, what they say. All right. So Cade Cunningham projected for 28% ownership. I'm getting to 18%. I feel like the matchup is good enough. I'm kind of a Cade bull today, I think. So I'm going to just give him a little bit of a projections boost. Harden, I'm not going to change. I'm currently getting a 39%. As I adjust other players, my exposure to so I usually go through first just adjusting upward the players that I do want, and then later runs, if I'm still getting to 70% Darius Garland, I don't want that, then I would project him lower. But because I'm changing other players, I'm essentially changing anybody that I leave unchanged. I am essentially lowering their projection relative to the players that I am changing upward. So Harden, I'd be okay staying at 39%. If this drops a little, I'm okay with it. But I'm just going to leave his projection as is. Lillard, again, I think that's a game that I kind of want to target a little bit more than the field. He's projected for 18% ownership. I'm going to give him a little bit of a boost. He's projecting for more than 7 fantasy points worse than Harden right now, and he's not only 900 cheaper. So I think I need to give him kind of a significant boost if I want to get to him in any kind of real number. So I'm going to boost him a full 2.5 points to 48. Halliburton, similarly, I like the game environment. I don't know if he's going to have a minutes cap, but I'm going to at least bring him up to a 5x value. So he's 8,800, just bring him up to 44. Poole, man, I don't know what to do with Washington. 15-point spread. They're tanking. Concerns there with Poole. I don't know. You could get hot. They could still play a lot of minutes because they're down by a lot. I think I'm okay with just not getting to a ton of Poole. He's sort of intriguing because he's only projected for 2% ownership. Maybe we'll give him just a tiny boost. Try to get to, but make him playable. I'll boost him enough that if he hits just right with the 10% randomness, maybe he'll make it into some lineups. All right, Darius Garland, I'm getting to 70%. Again, I'm just going to leave him. He'll probably come down a little bit as I adjust other players. CJ McCollum, sort of intriguing at just 8% ownership. I'm going to lose some usage with Zion back, but I don't know. He's so currently like well below 5x value. Maybe I'll move him to just slightly below 5x value, get to a little bit, only because the ownership is so low. And I think this is low enough ownership that it's like, could I see CJ McCollum putting up 45 fantasy points and being the player you need on a 4-game slate? I could. So when he comes in at 8% ownership, that's sort of intriguing to me. And you can see, I just boosted him. So he was projected worse than Cam Thomas, who's $700 cheaper. So it's going to be tough to get CJ McCollum. So I just boosted him to be project a little bit better than Cam Thomas. Nembhard, yeah, it's a tough ask with Halliburton and McConnell back. I probably just won't get there. McConnell, probably don't need to get there. Chris Dunn, I'm getting at 10%. That looks pretty good to me. Keon Johnson. Do I want Keon Johnson in my pool? He's getting 14% ownership. I'll bring him up a little bit. Jose Alvarado, getting to 0. He's actually projecting like just under 5x. So I'm surprised I'm not getting to any. I guess he's only point guard eligible. So that would be that would be the reason I'm not getting into Jose Alvarado. Dennis Schroeder, nice matchup, getting 15% already. KPJ, again, like he can just, if he gets a few extra minutes, gets hot. Sort of intriguing to me. Craig Porter, I'm getting to 53%. The field is projected for just 11.5%. Again, I think he was projected for like 15 by Rotogrinders. So I'm torn on whether, like, do I just want to let it ride and get to over 50% Craig Porter Jr. because it's such an outlier, the projection here at Unabated, and the field's not going to get there a ton, and he could benefit a lot from Mitchell being out. But I am going to lower him just a little bit now, and I said I don't really like lowering on the first run, but I'm kind of limited for time here, so I am just going to just very slightly lower him. All right, then I go shooting guards. Trey Murphy just getting a 3.3%. Tougher with Zion back, but he's projected for just 9% ownership, so he is somebody that I think I want to get to a bit more, so I'm going to boost him a little bit. Nemhard, if I don't get any, I'll be okay with it. Bub, I think I'm okay. Beasley, I kind of want a little bit more, I think. I'm just going to boost him to a 5x value. 27 fantasy points is now what I project him at. Double that, 5,400. That's where you get 5x value. Neesmith, I think I'm okay with not getting to any. I'll put him just a little bit under 5x. Get him to potentially make it into the player pool, but yeah, Bogdanovich, it's debatable that I really want any. Keon Johnson, I think I already boosted him. Yes, I did. He's point guard eligible. Zaire Williams, I'm getting to 2%. Keep in the player pool. Give him a little bit of a boost. Schroeder, it's such a nice matchup. Probably need to boost him just a little bit just to keep him around the same numbers. Kind of contradicting myself a little bit here, but realizing I have limited time, so I'm changing some things where otherwise wouldn't. Getting a 65% Max Strus seems like a lot. I'm going to bring him down just slightly. Okoro, 33%. Yeah, getting a lot of minutes. Sam Merrill, 60%. Just going to bring them both down ever so slightly. Small forward. Not getting into like any Zion. Zion could break a slate. So I'm going to bring him up to just below 5x. It's only projected for 9% ownership. I think he's pretty intriguing. Already moved up Trey Murphy. Cam Thomas looks pretty good, getting to 34%. Kyle Kuzma, again, I just like that game environment, so I'm going to move him up just a bit below 5x value. Probably okay without Middleton at 6,000. Also, Thompson's sort of intriguing at 5,500. I'm just going to move him to, he's slightly below 5x right now. I'm going to move him to slightly above 5x. Anybody else I need to? Nah. Getting into one share of Javonte Green. That's interesting. He is on Cleveland. You never know. Maybe some of these more like tertiary pieces on Cleveland are sort of intriguing. Because if it is a blowout, some nice leverage on all the other more popular teammates. So maybe I'll give just a little bit of a boost to these tertiary guys. Now, that's where maybe it would make sense to do some groups, but on a 4-game slate, I worry about it less. Like you could see the starters and the backup both put up big games in a blowout. I think, especially when he's 3,000, like could only play 14 minutes and be an awesome value. But there probably are rules there that would make sense. I'm going to bring up Siakam again, just like that game environment, not getting much ownership. Only got to 8% Champagny. They only project for 9% ownership. I'm going to move him up just slightly. Could be limited by the tanking. Again, so now I'm getting to 71% Matkovic. I said I think 49% is too much. I am, because I probably only get to do one run here before lock. I'm just going to move him down a bit. All right. Going to move up Batum a bit. All right. Oh, and I haven't done center yet. Okay, let me do that real quick. Giannis, I'm getting a 59%. Obviously, okay, getting to a ton of Giannis, getting to a ton of Zubats, 38% Duran. I do want to bring up Miles Turner. I think he's just, like I said, he's a great fantasy asset. He's more expensive than Duran. I still haven't projected worse, so I'm going to bring him up slightly more. Still going to be worse than Duran, but I don't want him. I want to get to some. Sar, maybe want to get to a little bit potentially. Rolo, I need to get going. Need to hurry up here. Missy, I think, is intriguing, kind of. All right, and I don't have time to really mess around with this much, so I'm just going to run it. I am playing only the mini max today. All right, so in my latest run number 2, I'm at 71% Darius Garland, 68% Strus, 65% Matkovic. I better just download this. I probably don't have time for another run, but this is where I would, because I'm so limited time. So I'm just going to try to do this real quick. Because I'm so limited for time, I'm not going to be able to obviously go through position by position, look at every player again. So let me just get these in. Well, what I will do sometimes in this case, if I'm really trying to focus on my process, what I will do is I'll just go back to the player pool, just sort by actual exposure and say, okay, is there anybody that's crazy high? I really don't want this much Matkovic. I'm just going to bring him down pretty significantly. Zubats, 54%. I think I'm okay with everybody else, how much I'm getting. So I think I just want to bring down Matkovic. And I'm sort of by center. I want to be all. Yeah, maybe some other players that I'd like to bring down here a little bit more, but I'm just going to run it. Just bring down the Matkovic. I probably am not going to get this crunch in. And is that game at lock? No, it's not right at lock anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. But if I bring him down, then I'll get more of some other players from the first game potentially. So could matter. But yeah, now I've moved him down a little bit. We'll see if I get this one in. I'd be surprised. All right. Got it. We got it in time. All right. So I moved down my Matkovic very slightly with that one down to 52%. So I said 49% was too much. I'm still actually above what the projected ownership is there, even after moving down fairly significantly there. But here's where we're at in our latest build. 72% Garland, 71% Strus, 57% Zubats, 53% Giannis, 52% Matkovic, 52% Craig. I mean, this is a stand at 52%. Now, if I were playing something that was not the mini max, I would probably spend a little bit more time curating these. I obviously also have learned not to do that when I'm doing content up until lock. So I probably would not have played 52%. I don't know if that's the stand that I necessarily want on a Greg Porter, but I'm kind of okay with it because the unabated projections loved him. It is so that it's a stand that is backed by at least one projection source. So that's cool. Sam Merrill, 49%, Jarrett Allen, 40%, Toby Harris, 33%, Jalen Duren 32%, Evan Mobley 31%, Harden 30%. Now, what did the actual ownership come out at? Let's see. So we go to contests. Oh, looks like I lost a ticket. I had 2 tickets. Now I'm down to 1. And I didn't play it. So that means I missed an opportunity there. All right. So I'm going to go download, go to export lineups to CSV. You can see all the lineups in the contest. And you can quickly look at every player's ownership there also. So I'm just going to see what the ownership looks like in the first game before we get out here. So I'm well overweight on a lot of the Cleveland pieces. So it ended up Max Strus at 55% ownership, Darius Garland 54%, Jalen Duren 43%, Sam Merrill 32%, Jarrett Allen 32%, Evan Mobley 30%, Cam Thomas 24%, Cade Cunningham 23%, Tobias Harris 21%, Dennis Schroeder 20%, Craig Porter at 19%. And I had over 50%. So that is still a pretty big stand I took there. Justin Champagny 16%, Beef Stew 16%, Oscar Thompson 16%, Zaire Williams 15%, Isaac Okoro 15%, Alexander Sarr 10%, and then it's all down from there. Dean Wade came in at just 6%. I don't think did I adjust him at all? I'm not sure if I got to any Dean Wade. Javonte Green just 1%. Let me see what I got there. Did I get to any of these kind of lower owned pieces on Cleveland? No, I did not. So, right, I don't think I saw, which is probably fine, but I'm going to have regrets if Javonte Green goes off, because I was getting to some, and then I gave him a boost to get to more, and then I ended up with 0 because I have randomness on. Yeah, ended up with 0 Javonte after and he came in. So he's projected for 8% ownership. What did I say the number was? He actually came in at 1%. Damn. Okay. Yeah. Wish I had gotten some. All right. I'm going to check in on comments and then probably get out over here. Ooh, Paul and Boats. Apologies. It was too busy working on my lineups. Asked Zaire Williams or Dennis Schroeder. Did that game lock already? Yeah. Schroeder, both those games locked. So I'm too late to answer that question. But let me see if I just looked at the numbers, what would I have said? Is it ZI? So Zaire Williams is projected for 21 fantasy points at 7% ownership. And then Schroeder was projected for 23 fantasy points so double the ownership for Schroeder, projected just a little bit better. So like most lineups, you'd probably want to have more of Schroeder than Zaire Williams. But in a lineup where you're playing like all the chalk, then you would want to consider playing Zaire Williams. But most of the time, the answer would be Dennis Schroeder there. Just trust the projections, I think. All right. Oh, and I never moved my thing down to the lineups. All right, I gotta get out of here. I got trivia coming up in an hour. Got to go get a nice juicy burger. Maybe I won't get a burger because of my, trying to keep my heart healthy, or get my heart healthy, I should say. So maybe I won't do a burger, but gonna get some delicious food after my run earlier. Hopefully we don't get a ton of breaking news. But I think all the games start within the next hour. So pretty easy night tonight from an NBA DFS perspective. But I'm going to get out of here. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you could hit the like button on the YouTube video, always very helpful. Commenting, all of that is helpful. People commented on the last one, and I did not even notice until today. So apologies for that. I'm going to try to keep on top of that. But always appreciate the comments, the likes. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. That all is very helpful. But I'm going to get out of here. Thanks, guys. Good luck tonight, and I will catch you later.